Oh, we're wasting no time jumping into a special edition of the Gabe Swartz Show. It is KC Sports tonight. Gabe's clearly locked in.
I'm so locked in.
As you should be, because, Gabe, this is a victory Monday here in Chiefs Kingdom. Hopefully not our last victory Monday. Hopefully we have one more in us 2 weeks from tonight. So, basically, format of the show, guys. Chiefs beat the Bills. We're going to break this one down quarter by quarter. Not much happened in the third quarter. That's why you don't see the headline, but we will cover every moment, every storyline, what it means going forward. So, Gabe, before we really dive deep into this game, let's just start with your headline. What's your top takeaway from the Chiefs championship game win?
My top takeaway is that the Chiefs figured it out. And I would say figured it out in the sense that they were able to, when things were needed, they figured out Buffalo's way of attack with the quarterback sneak. They figured out a game plan in terms of a plan for the biggest down of the game and getting unidentified blitzers to the quarterback to get Josh Allen off of his spot. And they figured out offensively ways to work around extra help and extra coverage being drawn toward Travis Kelce and figuring out a way to have success with Worthy and Hollywood Brown, and Juju Smith-Schuster had 2 big catches.
And Mahomes' legs.
And Pat's legs with some design runs that came specifically out of the Baltimore Ravens playbook a week after the Baltimore Ravens opted not to use Lamar Jackson for any design runs. And that is why Andy Reid is who he is. It's why Steve Spagnuolo is who he is, and it's why Patrick Mahomes is who he is. And I think that's my overall takeaway from last night.
Yeah, and Gabe, I think that as we'll talk about through this game, I just continue to be in awe of the mental toughness of this team and the mental fortitude and the experience that this team has in the postseason and winning close games and erasing deficits, because this is another playoff game where the Chiefs trailed. It was only by 1, but it still counts. You know, in the fourth quarter, they faced a deficit. They came back and won. And then also with this season, you know, it's a continuation of winning close games, 17th straight victory in a one-possession game. And while I don't think the regular season mattered a whole lot, I think in many ways the season started yesterday. It gave them experience to where they were the better team in the fourth quarter. Not by much, but enough to win. And I just give so much credit to everyone, special teams, offense, defense, players, coaches, scouting, front office, and Chiefs fans. I mean, that really stands out to me, Gabe.
Yeah, I mean, you can go through the game, and there's so many players who aren't stars.
It was
who
a team
had
victory.
Moments.
This
like
wasn't
Nico Armigio had a huge kick return. Samaje Perine touched the ball one time, and it was the game-sealing catch. Isaiah Pacheco didn't have a great day running the ball, but he had a first down on the last drive. Kareem Hunt had one of his better runs of the season on the touchdown run that opened the game. And Xavier Worthy had one of his best games of the season as well. And the context, I wrote about this for KCTV5.com today about Brett Veach was, I think, overly nice about it last night in his post-game press conference about Buffalo knows what they're doing. Buffalo put together a really good roster.
They're not idiots, a really good team, but they're not on the Chiefs level.
But and it was in the context of the Bills trading pick 28 to the Chiefs and allowing Xavier Worthy to be drafted by Kansas City. And I think
compared to Keon Coleman, who the Bills selected, who had one catch.
Yeah, exactly. And so while Brett Veach was very nice about it, he also admitted, I think, that guys, when they get drafted with a pick that has been traded, or if they just get drafted behind somebody else who they think they should have gone in front of, they typically hold that close to their frontal lobe. And so I think that Xavier Worthy, given his comments post-game to Marlia on the field, which I know went viral, that those comments certainly played a role in the way that he was motivated to perform yesterday. And then he came out and did it. And that's the sign of a guy who's really growing. And just like we saw with Rashee Rice last year, Xavier Worthy is getting better and better, and that's a really good sign for next year as well.
He doesn't seem like a rookie. In many ways, he's what I expected. Who kind of caught me off guard was Hollywood Brown. I'm like, wait a minute, who's this guy? Because we haven't seen very much of him. And he had his, low bar, but best game as Chief, just from, especially starting out of the gates. So that's where we'll start. And actually, Gabe, when you talk about comparisons, it wasn't a trade, but the Chiefs traded ahead of the Bills to get Trent McDuffie, whereas the Bills drafted Kyrie Elam, who could not guard pretty much anyone. Yeah, I was going to say me in freshman year of flag football at Mizzou, but he could probably guard me. That's too much of an insult.
They were doing – CBS was doing mid-game cut-ups of
they were doing them,
getting – absolutely.
But I think
his PR team is going to need to do some work to get him a second contract in this.
That's tough. All right, we're going to dive into this, folks. I've got some notes that I highlight the big plays if you think I left something out. At Gabe on Twitter. Okay, so we start out, Gabe. First of all, the defense forces a great 3-and-out, and 2 plays that should have been interceptions on dangerous balls that Josh Allen threw. And I think that's some people, again, are having the narrative that Josh Allen outplayed Patrick Mahomes today and that Josh Allen did everything he could, and that's simply not the case. Did Josh Allen do everything he could on the last play of the game on a 4th and 5 ball? Yes. But Josh Allen, he could have. Right, in the moment once he
snapped it with 18 seconds on the play clock.
That was a good throw once he was under that pressure. But yes, pre-snap alignment. But I think that's what people are talking about.
Yeah.
But when you look at the context of the game, starting on the very first drive of the game, Josh Allen was not superhuman last night.
Yeah, and that was the thing is I think that the difference not only in just production but in terms of the idea of Josh Allen doing everything that he could have, I disagree with in the sense that he had 7 turnover-worthy plays, and I know that some people
he was trying to get the ball away.
At times, Chiefs fans can malign the stat at times because sometimes interceptions get dropped. It happens. Yeah. The Chiefs dropped a couple interceptions yesterday, specifically on the first 2 passes of the game.
Couple
by
fumble
the Bills.
Chances,
and the Bills recovered all 5 fumbles in the game, regardless of which team put the ball on the ground.
Yeah,
that was a little bit fortuitous, but because you didn't put this on the ticker on the side in the third quarter specifically, and I just want to get to this with Josh Allen being the conversation of him being able to do everything. To a certain extent, he wasn't asked to, because in the third quarter he did not complete or attempt a pass beyond the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And that to me is a little bit of, I'm a big fan of what Joe Brady does. I think that he was magnificent with Joe Burrow at LSU in 2019. I think he's had a really strong track record in the NFL, but that's 2 consecutive games in which a large portion of the second half, the game plan has been spent kind of taking the ball out of Josh Allen's hand, or if you're giving it to him, it's just been pushing him at a pile on short yardage, and I don't understand
which works
that.
Sometimes.
I don't understand that.
But especially because Josh Allen was having somewhat success throwing the ball. Maybe not as like in the 13-second game, but he was still having success. But not on that first drive. And when you combo that within what the offense did, Gabe, I came over to you, and I'm like, I was very fired up. I'm like, this game's not even going to be close. I don't know if I really believe that, but based on that start, it was as good of a start as the Chiefs could have hoped for, because that offensive possession, Gabe, slant to Hollywood Brown first down, slant to Hollywood Brown. Xavier Worthy had a gain. Kareem Hunt then finished it with a great run. Yeah, Pat, which was a sign of things to come. And then Juju had the big gain as well. Like, that looked to me like an offense that was like, yeah, now we go. We'd been warming up for this moment, and we're going to hit you with stuff you haven't seen a whole lot this year.
There were so many RPOs, and there were so many RPOs that had not been shown for large portions of the year, and if anything, the only part of the year that they were shown was the very brief glimpse of Christmas Day in Pittsburgh, when the Chiefs finally had Hollywood Brown back, and they had kind of their mojo going.
And it's so
that's
effective.
kind of the whole beauty of this evolution of late stage Andy Reid, is that he gets to the point where it kind of, to a certain extent, Chiefs fans on Twitter can be a little bit of lamenting the vanilla nature of things in the week to week of the season when they're playing the Broncos and the Raiders, and then they get to these big games,
right?
And there's things that get exploited.
You can't when you're in the Chiefs position, Gabe. You can't go 100% in October. You can at times, and I'm not saying those games don't matter, but when you already know you're going to make the playoffs, which the Chiefs did from the second they snapped the ball against the Ravens in Week 1. Like, you have to play the long game. And there's still elements that they didn't bring out against Buffalo that they will against the Eagles. And that's where I'm always the last to panic on stuff like that and last to get really angry. I understand it can be frustrating because you know what they have in the tank, but not only RPOs, Gabe, but the slants. And to be honest, it was the slant portion of it I would have liked to see more later in the game because they kept doing a lot of the RPOs and Pat running it very effectively. But I think that first drive kind of skewed my judgment for the rest of the game because they never quite clicked just like that. But it was a great first 10 plays. It was a 90-yard, 9-play drive.
I mean, they were well on their way to 14-3
right,
before
and
the
there
fumble
you go.
at the end of the quarter.
That's the last thing I had for the first quarter.
I just wanted to note that the Kareem Hunt touchdown, I tweeted this as well.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt has scored in every playoff game he's ever participated in, and that includes the 2 playoff games he's participated in with the Cleveland Browns. So he's put together
he's running back 1 right
yes,
now.
He absolutely is, and he's put together a really solid case, and it is a pretty solid bookend on his departure and his return, and getting this opportunity to be a part of capping the greatest 5-year, six-year run in NFL history if the Chiefs can win this thing on February 9th.
Yeah, no, he was great, and it's an added element that, that they went into the season with Carson Steele and Clyde Edwards-Helaire as the backup. So that's been a nice addition that came because of the Isaiah Pacheco injury, but he finds the end zone. Gabe, I thought they were off and running. I know they gave up a field goal, but it was a 53-yard field goal, so it's not like the defense was bad by any means. 7-3, they moved the ball down the field again. And, yeah, I think if it got to 14-3, it'd be a completely different ball game. But you credit the Bills for pouncing on the opportunity. The missed exchange between Mahomes and Pacheco. It's a fumble. It's their first turnover since the Buffalo game mid-November. And, Gabe, that was, I think, the first real turning point on the game because Buffalo, of course, then in the second quarter makes it 10-7.
Yeah, it opened the door back up. And this was the kind of game where the margins were so slim that, yes, the Bills – their giving the opportunity back was the turnover on downs throughout when he got stopped on 4th and inches, he being Josh Allen, and then the 4th and 5 at the end of the game. Those 2 turnovers on downs kind of offset the one legitimate turnover by the Chiefs, with it being a possession game, because I think other than that, the 2 teams matched punts.
Yeah, different points of the game. The Chiefs happened, on the same stretch there, so it might not seem that way. But, yeah, and that's where I give credit for Buffalo for not, a couple times in this game, not wilting, where they could have thrown in the towel. And it was a worthy opponent. I thought Buffalo played a little bit better than I thought they were going to. And James Cook played really well. He scored that touchdown. And suddenly the Chiefs are down 10-7 in the second quarter, Gabe, and they face a 4th down from their own 39-yard line. And I was probably 50-50 on it, which I know you were far more go for it, and most people were go for it. But judging on how the defense had played to that point and the situation of the game and the risk of it, I probably would have been okay with a punt. That was wrong on my part, and great job, Andy Reid, for going for it. They had a great play, and it worked, and that's another evolution of Andy Reid being even more aggressive. Gabe, he's been criticized for that in the past, so let's give him his praise now. Yeah,
he's pretty middle or just below league average in terms of 4th down aggressiveness by almost any metric, and this was one of those spots where I don't think that Andy Reid of 2014 is going for
I don't know, Andy 2019.
And that's it could even be in 2019. I mean, they had a more explosive offense.
Sure.
I think that my worry in the moment was going to be that they were going to hand it to Kareem Hunt third consecutive time, because it hit the 4th and 1 play was following 2 consecutive 2nd and 3rd and 1s in which they didn't.
Just got stuffed. And that was part of my thinking as well, because people don't like to see the creative plays on short situations or at the goal line. But
the creative play was that they went to was trusting Mahomes to make a decision.
Right. Mainly because short yardage running a lot of times didn't work yesterday for the Chiefs either. And so that's where I was fine with the times they did get creative on whether that was to Xavier Worthy or something odd. But speaking of Xavier Worthy, it pays off because they get the conversion with Pat's legs, and then he goes down, scores a touchdown, and Gabe, you called it. You predicted a Xavier Worthy touchdown, and that was a strong call because he was consistently great yesterday.
Yeah, and he took advantage of the fact that the Bills, once Christian Benford went down,
which was a big loss.
They were playing a lot of off coverage with Kyrie Elam, and that's when the whole cut up of CBS being like, well, this guy's not covering anybody, included Worthy and Hollywood Brown taking advantage of mesh and just running across the field. They took advantage of whip routes. Worthy scored on a whip route where his speed and elusiveness is incredible, and
something they haven't had in a while.
I thought it was nice that he gave a little ode to Tyreek and Demarcus Robinson on one of those catches in the first half.
Going backwards,
caught the ball, hopped back for no reason.
He did that like 3 times, I think. I sent a text saying it's Xavier quotes Demarcus Robinson Worthy.
Yeah.
But D-Rob's had a heck of a career, and Xavier Worthy's off to one because he also later in the second quarter had a circus catch that has drawn some consternation. I still don't really know if I think that was absolutely catch or absolutely interception or absolutely hit the ground. I don't think there's 100% anything. But either way, you go up and you give Xavier Worthy credit for, at least on the stat sheet, winning a jump ball, something coming out of college a lot of people thought he couldn't do.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of whether people believe it was a catch or not, I know it couldn't have been an interception because dual possession goes to the offense. It could have been. At the peak
of the ball, it was an interception, but he didn't bring it down.
But then he slowed it down. Yeah. And then the ball is allowed to touch the ground if people are in firm possession of it.
Right.
Which, given the call on the field, I don't think was being overturned.
Regardless
of those facts, if it had been overturned, Damar Hamlin held Travis Kelce, so it would have been a first down. The Chiefs probably score with less time on the clock, which maybe changes the Bills' drive prior to the half because the Bills weren't necessarily incredible with clock management. They
probably would have done different, but they were running, and I give them credit. They
were still running the ball.
No, I agree, and that's why the Sean McDermott challenge didn't make a whole lot of sense to me on the broadcast. They're like, well, it's worth it to save you 10, 15 yards. I'm like, is it?
But it wasn't worth it because
I agree.
It lost them the challenge
and the play because I guess they threw it before the play, but the play the Chiefs did run was like a 3-yard loss, so it gave them an extra down that they ended up scoring on. So I agree. But another example of Xavier Worthy's evolution. Either way, it's a touchdown drive, Gabe, because one, Nico Remigio had another big moment on special teams that I give a lot of credit to Dave Tobe. Remigio really finished off the run with some nice moves, but the first 30 yards were so well blocked. I mean, he just hit the outside, and he had a stream of blockers, so really great job. Dave Tobe has gotten some criticism in the regular season, but he continues to be just a wizard in the postseason, and it set up Patrick Mahomes' first rushing touchdown of the game.
And his first rushing touchdown of the game was the same concept as the 4th-and-1 conversion in their own territory. So the Chiefs beat the Bills with the same idea multiple times. And Mahomes said post-game it was a similar play call with the ability to throw the ball if it was open there. It was the play call that resulted in his rushing touchdown against the 49ers in Super Bowl 54. So that's the beauty of Andy Reid and the play calling is that they can just dip back into old calls and be like, hey, remember when we ran this 6 years ago?
Yeah.
And it worked. Let's
so
go to
hard
that.
to defend, especially with all these weapons, but now you have to count for Mahomes' legs. But, Gabe, I give the Bills credit because at that point it's 21-10. Remember, the Chiefs start with the ball in the second half. If they score there, it could be 28-10, and this game is over. But with less than 2 minutes left, they drive down the field. Not really drive down the field. I mean, they had a 34-yard touchdown, Matt Collins. And then they missed the 2-point conversion, so that stunted some of the momentum. But either way, Gabe, I give credit to Buffalo for running the ball, taking their time, and then hitting a big play.
And something about guys wearing white 13 jerseys for the Bills
Gabe Davis
at Arrowhead
flashback.
Stadium in January. Matt Collins, that was an incredible catch. I don't think it was. I don't think it was PI. I think it was just hand fighting, and McDuffie.
Still caught it. I agree. There was a false
didn't
start
get the benefit
on that play by the Bills, but
who?
I agree. That's
winners
fine.
don't care about
all the Chiefs stuff gets criticized for it. Either way, credit the Bills. 21-16. I felt like the Chiefs should have been up by more, but if you told me going into the game the Chiefs would be down in the turnover battle 1-0 and be up 5, I would take that. So in the third quarter, brief mention. Only notes I had, the offense was not good. They tried to run the ball on first and second down darn near every series and did nothing. I don't know why they tried running the ball so much after the first quarter. It just was not effective for the most part. And the Bills made him pay because the Bills ran crazy in the third, headlined by James Cook, but Josh Allen legs as well. And their one touchdown, though, it almost wasn't. I mean, that was an insane play by James Cook. Nick Bolton hit him in the air, and it looked like he was going down. And as he was going down, he reaches the ball. Credit where credit was due, that was on fourth down, but again, they missed the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, and that was a little bit of a matter of chasing the 2-point conversion that they had failed earlier.
Yeah.
And which was the kind of the early look at the Chiefs figuring out that every time that the Bills run the sneak, they run it to the left. And so they stacked the line with Chris Jones on that side, Mike Dana, who had an incredible game, was on that as well, and yeah.
Fun fact: Mike Dana was in coverage on the 4th and 5 stop at the end of the game. So
yeah, he was he was there to cover Khalil Shakir.
Yeah,
somehow,
but it worked. It doesn't matter who's back there when you get home that effectively.
Yeah.
But either way, again, credit the Bills, and suddenly, Gabe, the Chiefs are losing 22-21 in the fourth quarter. And this is where I was like, okay, because the offense had really sputtered. Bills had found their groove. Like, the Bills had momentum, had confidence. Mahomes had a bad sack in the third quarter that took him out of field goal range. And the Bills are driving in the fourth and inches. I know 4th and 5 was the biggest play of the game, but I think right up there was the 4th and inches stop.
Oh, yeah.
Neil didn't really agree with that, but...
I think the whole thing changed there because as soon as the 4th and inches stop was made, the Chiefs completely took advantage of it. It was a 5-play touchdown drive, 5 plays, 59 yards, and another big Juju catch, another big Patrick Mahomes run that was, as I mentioned earlier, the exact same concept that the Ravens ran against the Bills in September. Which it just goes to show how well these things are advanced scouted by championship organizations.
It doesn't matter. Like, the 4th and inches doesn't matter as much if the offense doesn't do anything with it, but it's the combination of the Chiefs immediately put 7 points on the board, and the Bills in Chiefs territory. If they get 3, now they are up 4 points, but there's a chance they get a touchdown the way they remove the ball. They go up 8. Maybe they go for 2 and Kansas City's down 9 in the fourth quarter. It's not over, but it's a lot tougher. And I think that was just an absolutely huge game because then they made him pay on offense with Juju Smith-Schuster having a massive play. That was probably my biggest surprise of the game, Gabe, because with DeAndre Hopkins in the fold, Hollywood Brown, I thought Juju had fallen more on the depth chart. He had 2 massive plays.
Yeah, he
on that drive coming out of the big moment on 4th and 1.
Yeah, he was critical, and from that point on, the Chiefs were able to kind of dictate the game. I know that the Bills answered and they tied it with a 4th and goal play that, yes, Curtis Samuel got lost in the zone with the Chiefs, but Josh Allen also rifled a ball that just missed Justin Reed's hands and could have been a stop. Yeah, and that's what
and that was on
great
4th
players
down
do.
Too.
Exactly.
And so the Chiefs, though, as you said, the go-ahead touchdown, Patrick Mahomes runs it in, and folks, go back and watch that play. Not in the context, well, yes, in the context of what Gabe's saying for the Ravens, but it's the exact same play as the Kareem Hunt touchdown on the first drive, and it's so unique watching the defense react because Jawan Taylor, the right tackle, pulls to the other side. Everybody in the line pushes left, so the defense pushes to the left. Yet Mahomes goes right. Travis Kelce, who apparently can't block, lays a heck of a block. Mahomes, looking like Lamar Jackson, runs in. It was a great read. It was a great play design. It was perfect execution at a massive point in the game. And especially because later on in the fourth quarter, they didn't convert when they got down there in the red zone, so I'm not going to take it for granted and say they would have scored regardless. It was an awesome, awesome play that was set up earlier in the game, that was set up in the past, and to me, that play is one of the reasons why the Chiefs are such an incredible dynasty.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the ability to do things that you've not done frequently, and call back upon.
That's right.
And
the Chiefs had none. Bill said that they hadn't seen that on tape.
Yeah, and they haven't shown a lot of designed Mahomes runs aside from the kneecap dislocation.
Yeah,
and then the 4th and 1, gotta have it in overtime last year in the Super Bowl.
And even that you could argue was an RPO with Kelsey as an option coming out. Like this was legitimate. Like Mahomes wasn't even faking it. He was just running.
Yeah.
I think you could argue that's one of the only times ever in his career that he's legitimately done that.
Yeah.
Like, because the Browns' injury was kind of like an option. That wasn't really a pass forward. He had an avenue to pitch. That's probably the closest, I would say.
Yeah.
Either way, incredible. Chiefs go up 7. I thought the game might have been over there. I was feeling a turnover on downs from the Bills, and they came close, as you said. 4th down, and that was the frustrating part of the game, Gabe. They gave up 9. The Chiefs gave up 9 conversions on 3rd or 4th down. That's 9 times Kansas City could have gotten off the field, and they didn't. But they had the one big 4th and inches conversion stop, and then on 4th and 5. Either way, the Bills get. Yeah,
that's also like the difference between the two teams is the Chiefs. When they did not punt, their scoring drives, they moved the ball. The first drive of the game, they didn't touch 3rd down. The final field goal drive, they didn't touch 3rd down until they got themselves behind the chains with the sack. And meanwhile, the Bills kind of lived in 3rd and got to have it. And Josh Allen, to his credit, made some plays, but they had to convert more often because they had more struggles moving the ball in chunks on 1st and 2nd down.
Yeah, and that's where I give credit to the defense for playing well a lot of the game, just not every play, which is hard because it's impossible to sack Josh Allen. I thought they were getting after the quarterback at a really solid rate, just couldn't bring him down, so they were moving the ball, they were running the ball well. But when it mattered most, the Chiefs, tie game, 6 minutes left, they go down and kick a field goal, something Buffalo could not do. So I don't want to overlook that on that drive, Hunt had a run, Kelsey had his second catch, Xavier Worthy had the big catch that put him up goal line. I know the sack by Mike Caliendo getting smacked around, which really the offensive line I thought played pretty well. Joe Tooney played very well. That was the only time that really backfired. But they didn't turn the ball over. They got the field goal that they had to have, and that's something Buffalo then couldn't do.
Yeah, and I think given the juxtaposition of the 13 seconds game and the too much time for Mahomes, too much time for Allen, too much time for Mahomes, back and forth that we kind of did a couple years ago, to give the ball with 2 timeouts, 3.5 minutes left, and
scary.
Just needing a field goal. It felt like I almost had the feeling of like, man, if Josh Allen just unloads it from just throwing the ball all over the yard and gets Mac Hollins deep like he's gotten him a couple times today, they could score real quick, and then Mahomes could come down and they could have maybe a last chance to go back ahead. But the Chiefs' defense
didn't happen. And it
bowed up and got to stop.
And so that's where Turk Wharton started the drive, then Allen converts, and then they start to flounder. That goes back to our first point of Josh Allen doing everything he could, is what the nation is saying. Yes, based on that throw that he got himself in, it was an insane throw. But he had the first 3 downs to get 10 yards, and he couldn't. Those count. And so that brings us to the 4th and 5, obviously a massive play. Incredible work by Steve Spagnuolo. The blitz that he brought. So essentially the season on the line, because if they get that, they're in field goal range, essentially, and maybe they are able to even run the clock out and score a touchdown. So I'll say Chiefs season on the line. In coverage, there were 6 guys back, Gabe. It was Mike Dana, Shamari Connor, rookie Jaden Hicks, Brian Cook, Jalen Watson, and Nick Bolton, who's not great in coverage. That's not a great secondary.
And Dalton Kincaid was open. And the reason he didn't get the ball.
But it doesn't matter
is because he was
when you get home like
so
that.
Much pressure.
It's just a Spags masterclass.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would push back on the narrative that Bills fans and football fans in general who spent the week being like, man, Lamar guided that throw to Mark Andrews. He aimed it and he lofted it, and Mark Andrews had to wait on it a little bit too much. To say that Dalton Kincaid absolutely should have caught that ball, I think is a stretch.
Because I agree. It's not the same.
If you look at the all 22 and then you look at the end zone angle, the ball is falling. We all know how the wind swirls and does weird things at Arrowhead Stadium. We all know that the data says that it's actually harder to catch balls at night at Arrowhead Stadium than in most NFL stadiums because of probably the red seats, the red jerseys with a dark football. So all of that, and then you have a tight end